Inconceivable!
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
Welcome to the Cheap Seats and Stickman podcast.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Cheap Seats and a Stickman podcast. On this special edition, I'm actually flying solo as I have a conversation with current UFC fighter Brad Pickett. We talk about many different topics, including his September 3rd fight with Enrique Briones, how he prepares for his fights, and some of his favorite video games and TV shows. I hope you enjoy it. Hey man, how you doing?
I'm all good, thanks. I'm all good.
Yeah, I want to tell you, just thanks a lot for doing this. I really appreciate it. As like a longtime fan, I really respect that you're just taking the time out. It's just, as a fan, it's just cool as all hell to talk to such a high-level fighter and get to actually interview you.
No problem at all, mate. No problem at all.
The first one I want to ask you is that I'm guessing you didn't always train at ATT. You originally trained back home in London at first, right?
Well, I still train back home in London as well, as in like, I've just been, what it was, I trained at a place called Team Titan in London, and then what I do before a fight, I go to American Top Team, I go to American Top Team like for a fight camp, but I still train in London as well.
Oh, so you split time in both?
Yeah. So I'm not here full time. I come out here like 6 or 8 weeks before a fight, you know.
And when so do you have people in your corner that are both from both camps, or just ATT coaches like Paulie?
I have Paulie. I have Mike Brown. Mike Brown's been my longest serving cornerman, as well as my coach from back in England called Mickey Pappas. You know, they've been in my corner for a long time. Yeah, so I had a coach from a team back home in England, and I also have coaches from American Top Team.
Now, the thing I always like asking, because I always like to find out like the details, like the key elements of a training camp from the fighters, you know, other than just the basic stuff. Oh, you know, how you feel about this fight or whatever. But like, what is your, you know, training regimen on going into a fight? How does it usually break down? How long is it in terms of weeks? How many workouts do you have a day? Like I've seen fighters, they'll do multiple workouts a day. And do you do like rest days? Like, did you have to go through an evolution as, you know, went along in your career to adjust? And like, what's your kind of program going into a fight?
Well, my training camp starts. My training regimes like picks up a lot when I come to American Top Team, you know. But when I'm back in England, I still keep myself in relatively shape. I do more like technique and I'd say conditioning sort of thing. I spar a little bit still while I'm there, but I do most of my sparring when I come to American Top Team. And obviously it changes throughout the years, where obviously when you first start in your career, you need to learn a lot of things. So you're training multiple times a day to learn new stuff, and also when you're younger, you have you recover quicker, so you could do that. When you get a little bit older, it's more about refining the techniques that you know. Don't get me wrong, you still try and learn new techniques as well, but with training, it's a little more about the quality of training rather than quantity. So you need to like be very picky with what you do and how you push your body. And as for rest days, they are important. Rest is important as well as training hard, but that's down to me. At weekends, I tend to rest more. I train twice a day most days, and then I train once on a Saturday, and Sunday I normally rest, or I do something fun like I did today. I played tennis for a little bit, but
nice. But
nothing like serious. But then it's always down to my body as well. So I listen to my body. So like even during a week, if I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling a bit banged up, I may bring down the intensity of some of the sessions and maybe go for a light jog or ice bath and sauna and stretch. So after years and years and years of training, you tend to know your body more than anybody else, you know. So you kind of like, you be intelligent enough to listen to yourself and know. So some people, like, obviously there's a thin line between not training enough and then also overtraining.
Yeah.
So some people get really tired when they're training. Oh, I'm overtraining, I'm going to take some rest. But they're probably just not even trained enough to get in shape.
Yeah.
But if you've been training all the time and you've been in fantastic shape, then you all of a sudden you start really struggling in practices, that may be a sign of overtraining. So, yeah, again, with experience, you get to learn these sort of things, and also being around the right sort of coaches that also can maybe spot these things out, you know.
And talk about your coaches. I mean, you train at like one of the best camps in the sport. Now, for that a camp like that that's so diverse and they have all these kind of options in a training day, are there like set days? Like, are there days where it's a focus? Like, there might be a focus on striking. Another day might be jiu-jitsu, or mixed.
Well, yeah, we have a training regime, so here I have a schedule. Most, I mean, like, also at American Top, there's so many classes going on every day, you know.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like a buffet. You go and choose what you want to do, you know. So it's up to your coaches to decide which classes you attend. And I mean, when I say multiple classes, there's multiple pro classes going on at the same time, not just classes. So like pros may be doing a stand level, some people might be doing lessons, but there's a few key practices that, you know, you kind of are not mandatory that you like to go to, you know, where most of the guys, and that's like on a Monday mornings, wrestling, a hard wrestling practice. Mainly what it is like the mornings for me, I like to do my hard training sessions, and in the evenings, a little bit more lighter, more technique and drilling and that sort of stuff, you know, sometimes a little bit harder, but mainly I like to get my hard training sessions in the day, and more cardio and technique in the evenings, you know. So Mondays normally hard wrestling, Tuesdays and Thursdays is sparring, Wednesdays I do conditioning in the morning, and Fridays is grappling. Saturdays is another light sparring day, but I normally do pads with Paulie, and then I do like a little bit of an MMA circuit sort of thing, you know. But these always change, you know. You always changing things around, but that's roughly what I do. But sometimes I may do this instead, or I may do that. It does vary.
Now, so with the, since you have so many options, such a big camp, but it is such a big camp, when you are training, is it the camp, like, is it focused on you, Brad Pickett, or is it kind of mixing in with other guys that are training for fights also coming up? Like, is there a special emphasis on you, or it's kind of a team effort and everybody's working together while, trying to prioritize their own things during the training?
It's a little bit of both, you know, to be honest. As in, obviously, it's hard to make it all of it. It's like a double-edged sword. Sometimes there's the pros and cons of being in such a massive camp. When you're involved in such a massive camp, you're not the only fighter getting ready for a fight. So it's not always going to be about you. Not every coach is running your schedule, looking at this, that. I mean, like, not everyone's eyes are going to be on you, if that makes sense. So, but the advantage of being at a big training camp as well is you have a vast array of sparring partners.
Yeah.
Like, you're always going to get roughly a good look into who you're fighting. You know, if you're fighting a southpaw, fighting an orthodox guy, your tall guy, a jiu-jitsu guy, a wrestler, with being part of a massive camp, you can really pick out your training partners for your fight. But then so it's like, it's not as if you're part of a small team. You may get a bit more eyes from your coaches, but you may not have the training partners you know there all the time to be with. But yeah, also I still have my coaches still looking at me and watching my sparring and stuff like that. Obviously, I like Paulie to be there a lot more than he is, but yet again, he lives in Port St. Lucie, so he doesn't get down till the weekend, so he doesn't really get to see my sparring unless I video it and send it to him. But then with that, he can't correct me there and then, if that makes sense, and give me advice. And my other coach, being Mickey, is back in England, so he's not there as well. And then the other coach is Mike Brown, and he's here. But again, his eyes not are just on me either. He has equal and multiple. He's probably the most busiest coach in the gym with cornering, right? So he's not always going to be looking at me. You know, he's looking at other people. But you know, he does keep a good eye out for me as well.
And that's fascinating to hear because I've noticed like there's starting to be an evolution in the sport. Like, early in the days you had more fighter gear camps because camps were smaller and more spread out. And then, now the thing was going to the best camps possible because like you said, you really get to train with so many different people. But there isn't such a focus. And I noticed like I've seen a lot of fighters now that are starting to go more towards that boxing, specifically focused to them kind of camp. In a perfect world, would you prefer something like that? I mean, but even if there is a drawback of having maybe not as diverse an amount of, training partners, or, is this really the best possible training, at least for you, because it's such a major place and you get such really good fighters to work with every day?
I don't know. As in, you do get people like Robbie Lawler. Obviously, even with all this, he does have a bit more section training to himself, where he will train different times of the day, and he'll pull actual fighters from our team to come and train with him at a certain time.
Boo! He gets special treatment. Boo!
Yeah, no. But he's a world champion, and so it's a bit. And you couldn't do that. The amount of fighters we have, you could not do that for every individual fighter.
Yeah.
It's just impossible, So he gets a bit of special treatment, but man, he deserves it. He's earned the right to get that treatment.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's not as if he had that treatment before.
Yeah.
He gets that treatment now. He's earned that treatment.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to earn that treatment, But then, still, it's not as if, I don't get, it's not as if I don't get attention. Of course, I get loads of attention. Paulie comes down and I see him on one-on-one. I do a lot of drilling in the evenings with Mike Brown. He's my main coach. So, I have a very, very, but a lot more attention. I think better training than I would do if I just went and done my own thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you had all the money and resources in the world, I'd be I could go to anywhere in the world. I could go to Thailand and fly in Mike Brown, Paulie, and Mickey, fly in 5 different sparring partners and do my own camp. But that's when you're earning millions and millions and millions. You can afford to do that. At the moment, I don't earn that sort of money, so you can never justify doing that. So, and also, I've been American top team for years, and the facilities are next to none. So I can't see why would you want to go anywhere else anyway.
Yeah. Another thing I always like to ask, and it seems different than in MMA than boxing, but I could totally be wrong just about how the fighters are talked to. How much tape do you watch on an opponent? I've seen fighters in MMA that they don't watch tape and they prefer to just implement their own styles and worry about themselves. Do you watch a lot of tape or not really?
It's tricky. It's there's a few ways you can look at this. You look at tape, you get so fixed on an opponent, he pulls out. New guy. So it's just I look at tape a little bit to see what people are good at, and then also when you know people, you kind of know which type of sparring partners you will need to partner up with, who's going to give you a good look, what you can work on. But then also with myself, I do like to concentrate on myself and make myself a better fighter. I think sometimes if you fixate too much on what the other person's good at, and you're worried about it too much, you end up going into the fight thinking about what they're going to do, waiting for them to do it, and then if you wait for them to do it, they end up doing it, and then you let them get their foothold on the fight.
Yeah.
Where rather than going out there and implement what you're good at. So don't get me wrong, I like to look a little bit, but I wouldn't say I'm a massive game planning guy, because I like to fight for every minute of a fight, and a fight's very, organic. Loads of weird things can happen within a fight, so you need to get comfortable to fight in every position, But some people are masters at game planning, this, that, and everyone goes on about a game plan when it works out. You never hear about people's game plans going wrong, do you? I had a game plan, it just didn't work. You never really hear that. You only hear about game plans. I had this game plan, I stuck to it, and I won.
Yeah.
You never hear about people's game plans. Well, I went in there, I tried to take it down, I couldn't take it down with a single leg. I kept on trying, and then I got knocked out from doing it. You know, so like you never hear that story.
Now you have fought a few times, home in London. Is there any like mentality change? Is there a prep difference? Prep difference. Is there any adjustments to fighting at home? Like for example, if you're fighting at home in London, since you have to go to London, you live in London, and have to come to the U.S. to train, do you just still make that same thing and just end up back home? And is it a better situation? Is it more in being in familiar surroundings? Is it a better situation, or is it more almost pressure because you're at home? You have everybody coming to see you and all your friends and family there.
Well, no, I don't know. It's like, well, I can ask this question loads of different ways. But like for me personally, even if I fight in London, I would always come over to America and train. It's like, because even though I train well in England, and where before back in the day, I came over to American Top Team because you have a vast array of coaches and training partners. Well, even now in England where I train, I do actually have good training partners and good coaches. But one of the main reasons why I do like to travel away is to get away from my day-to-day life. So it's a lot easier to switch on mentally in fight camp, your diet, everything, and your phone. My phone's not going every 2 seconds with someone saying, "Hey, Brad, come down here tonight. We've got this going on." Or, like you get away from your day-to-day life, and the focus switches. That is all on you. So mentally, I find it very good as well. So I'd always still come over to America, no matter even if I fought in England. But fighting in England, yes, there's a little bit of added pressure, I guess. But also it's comfort. I remember my last fight was in England, and I did have a lot of pressure going into the fight, but I felt comfortable as well being with my family, my son. I was there around the weigh-ins. I took my dog and my son around the UFC offices and stuff like that. It's fine. It's like comfortable. I'm a different stage of my life now where I am a family man, and so it's not always not just about me and stuff like that. So like I like to be feel comfortable. I remember like you get to the stage where you have to be locked away from your family. You gotta be like put yourself down in a dungeon. You can't have any contact with the outside world until fight's over. You need to focus just on the fight. Man, I don't know. To me, that's a bit retarded.
Now, when I was doing research about you, reading other interviews, I found out about, your grandfather being a bare knuckle boxer. He's also called One Punch, and the trilby hat that you wear is, paying homage to him. Just out of curiosity, question: did you ever ponder, or did you bare knuckle fight before you became a amateur fighter? Or like I know that you were into soccer, then you started training boxing, and you never got to dabble in bare knuckle fighting at all.
I never really had any interest in combat sports whatsoever growing up.
Wow.
My main focus was that, don't get me wrong, I did have an interest in it, but I never really focused any time on it whatsoever. I just loved football, or soccer, as you say. Well, I just was just obsessed with that, and I just assumed that would be my thing. It worked out. It wasn't my thing. I had a bad knee injury, and I did like combat sports. As in, I took up boxing a little bit, and I did really enjoy that. And I didn't really know too much about my granddad until I actually, when I was 19, I took up boxing, and then my mum was telling me a bit more about my granddad. But that granddad actually died when I was like 4 years old, so I did actually get to know him, really. But then when I started up boxing, my mum was it's like your granddad, da-da-da. And then that's when she started showing me more pictures of him, and he used to wear a trilby hat, he had braces. His nickname wasn't One Punch, so that part's wrong.
Oh, sorry about that.
Nice. But so like that's why I wear a trilby hat and braces in paying tribute to my granddad and stuff. But I wasn't really a violent person thinking I would, I'm not a violent person. I do a violent sport. I'm just very competitive, if that makes sense.
So is that what it is? Because, I've seen the quotes, you're one of Dana White's favorite fighters, and you're a very fan-friendly fighter. Is it just the competitive juices in you that make you go out there and willing, to really mix it up with people and, give the people a good show?
Yeah, 100%. I generally fight for, in an old-fashioned way, respect and fans, like... I always say this. I never fight because I hate what's in front of me. I fight because I love what's behind me. So that is the support of my friends, my family, my coaches. I fight for them. I'm a bit like in a way, I get getting all philosophical and all that sort of stuff. But I'm a bit like a gladiator where you fight to feed your family. You don't fight because you hate. Like that's how I do it. I go to battle to put food on the table. And yes, I'm a very competitive person, but I don't get any pleasure knocking some dude senseless, and it's not like my thing. But I fight hard, and because I'm very competitive and I don't want to lose, I'm aggressive, and I do know I'm quite tough, so I do get a bit tough man competition sometimes, where I like to be involved in those gritty fights. Not just because of me, because also I know the fans like that type of fight, and that's why I guess Dana White likes my style, because that's the type of fight I like to be involved in.
And since we mentioned boxing, when you were growing up and you were a combat fan, were there any favorite boxers or even MMA fighters that you had?
Well, MMA wasn't really a thing for me growing up. I kind of grew up with the sport. Obviously I did watch early UFCs where you watch, obviously Ken Shamrock, Hoist Gracie.
Yeah.
Obviously people like Vitor Belfort back then, but obviously my best fighter of all time to watch, who I just completely appreciate, was obviously because, yet again, his style, he went out to finish a fight, and that was Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
He went out to knock the other guy senseless and win. He never looked, nowadays I find in a lot of modern day boxing, it's like, okay, how am I going to win this fight over 12 rounds?
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, every time he got into the cage, he's not thinking about round 7 or 8. He's thinking about, I'm going to try and put you out in this minute. Okay, and it's the next minute, or the next minute after that. He's doing that from the word run. So that's why I loved about Mike Tyson.
Now, you're fighting Enrique Briones coming up. Now, the fight was canceled previously. Do you feel going into this, how far did you get into the camp training for him originally? And because you trained for him before, do you feel almost extra prepped? Is it a good thing to train for a guy a second time? Is it a bad thing? It gets kind of stagnant? Does it affect you mentally at all? What's your thoughts on Enrique Briones going into this fight in September?
Well, with him, like I said before, I touched on it briefly. I don't really concentrate too much on my opponent. I concentrate on a date. So I am booked to fight September 3rd, and wherever is opposite me is opposite me. So that's what I look at. Because I know this sport is crazy. People get injured all the time. So my opponent could change again. It could change another 2 times or 3 times. To me, it doesn't matter. I concentrate on my date. My date is September 3rd. I will be there, and we just have to see who's opposite me. That's how I see it.
Now, because it's a big story, have to ask a fighter who you work for the company. What's your thoughts on UFC being sold to WME/IMG?
To be honest, I really don't know, and I don't think any fighter in the UFC could tell you is it going to be a good thing or bad thing. Only time tells with these sort of things. We honestly don't know. Obviously, I just don't have a clue. It hasn't affected me anything drastically right away. I haven't got a massive pay rise. I haven't got a pay decrease or anything like that. So I think with these things, time will tell if it's going to affect us in a good way or a bad way.
So that, I saw, there's a lot of sites that showed the email that was supposedly sent to a lot of fighters. Is that the only correspondence you've heard from the UFC since the sale?
I haven't had no email.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay. Yeah, it was on a lot of sites explaining what the sale was and what's happening, and that, there's no major changes or whatever, but... Yeah, I guess it seems like it's a limited amount coming out, so I guess, that's it. Now, it's not a newer story, but it's a bigger story, and thoughts on the Reebok deal, could you care less? Is you annoyed, or you don't want to say anything, that might hurt you? I mean, any thoughts at all when that happened, and still feelings on it, a few months into it?
Well, me with the Reebok deal, obviously it affects certain fighters in different ways. Obviously, some people were absolutely banking with sponsors. But some people wasn't so much. So like on the whole, it's going to affect every fight individually in different ways. But do I think for a sport is Reebok good or bad? In a way, I think it's good. I like it with the uniform and stuff like that. Reebok gear, I actually don't mind. I think it's quite cool. They're getting bits of better stuff. I don't mind that as such, but one thing, it does take away a little bit is the individuality, like some people, sometimes it's hard to stand out. So when every fight kind of looks the same, it kind of like makes it a little bit, who's that guy? You're hard to even stand out unless you have some crazy tattoos or dye your hair pink or something like that. And even with me, I used to stand out obviously because my ring entrance. I used to wear my cut down jean shorts and stuff like that. Now that's taken away from me. Yes, I can still wear my hat, but I have to come out in uniform. So in a way, it legitimizes the sport a little bit. Obviously, it makes it more legitimate, I guess. But yeah, it does take away a little bit of the individuality from fighters, which I hope they, even if they let people maybe, because only like at the moment you only wear your country colours. If you could choose, I happily wear Reebok stuff, but if I could choose what colour I choose to wear and what combination, and what's obviously you choose what style shorts, but if you get a bit more input on what at least colour combination, it doesn't have to be, you're from England, you have to wear blue and white.
Yeah.
Kind of that. Or you're from Canada, you wear red and white. It's like, if I'm from Canada, I could wear yellow and black if I want to. So it'd be better if they could do that.
I mean, you brought up the hat. I'm just curious, was there any issue with you coming out to the ring with the hat and it's not a Reebok thing, or they were fine with it?
Well, I was actually fought on the first card that Reebok was doing, my friend. I just turned up there, and I said to Dana, I can wear my hat, right? He's like, yeah, of course. Okay, cool. And that was it.
All right. Now, another big story going on in the industry, and I'm curious what your feelings are of it. What's your thoughts on free agency? I mean, a lot of fighters are finally getting to test to test the market, see their value elsewhere, because there are some solid shows out there, Bellator, Ryzen, ONE FC. Are you open to free agency, especially now that Bellator just did a pretty, solidly successful show in the O2? Or are you open to free agency, maybe going somewhere if you don't stay on with the UFC, or if you get to a point, the UFC doesn't re-sign you, are you just going to retire? I mean, what's your thoughts? Like, it's UFC and that's it, or are you open to going somewhere else? Even let's say, your free agency comes up and the UFC wants you, but someone else is willing to pay you more, are you willing to go somewhere else?
I really wouldn't know unless I got offered, anything. I'm not saying, for me, it's like UFC is the biggest organization in the world by far. It's like, it'll say like in soccer terms, I'm at the moment I'm playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, yeah.
If the American football leagues approach me to go over and play, obviously I'm not playing against the elite and I'm not on the biggest stage, but they can pay me good money. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes either. Me personally, I think once I'm done with the UFC, I'm 38 in September, so it's like, and also for a smaller weight class guy, that's quite old, there's not many of us in the sport, so like, I really don't know, it's all to do with how my body feels. I would like to stay in the UFC as long as I can, but, when I feel that they may be done with me, I would possibly like to still work for them, in some way, in Europe or something like that. So I wouldn't want to burn any bridges by signing for Bellator or something like that, But then, end of the day, I've got a kid now, and my thought process has changed dramatically since that, and it is a lot about putting food on the table for my son and providing for him. So at the end of the day, money does talk. So if someone offered me $1 million to fight in KFC championships in Kentucky, I'm fine.
You get chicken too. I mean, who wouldn't want to have KFC championships?
Yeah, at the end of the day, so my money does talk, but obviously, So it's a hard one to say, at the moment. At the moment, I'm focusing on my next fight, and then we see how it goes after that. I would like to maybe retire in my home country. Like maybe next year, fight again this year, and then maybe next year when they go back to the O2, that may be a good little swan song story for me. But then also, like, to do that, I kind of would like to be a little bit more set up, than I am at the moment to what I'm going to do afterwards.
All right. Now, I read in an article, hopefully it's correct, that you like to play video games, that you're a big PC gamer. Now, some non-MMA, non-fighting questions, just questions of you, what you like to do, what you're into. One, do you have any favorite video games? If that's true, you do play PC games.
Well, I used to be massive into PC games. That was my thing. But I actually don't have as much time as I'd like to play. Because I'm one of those guys, no matter what I do it big. So when I played PC games for a long time. I was my massive game was World of Warcraft. I played that for like 8 years. So I played that for a long, long time. But also one of those things, like, again, I'm very competitive, so I didn't want to just be in there to make up the numbers. I wanted to be like a really cool character, and to do that, you have to put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
I'm a busy man now, so I don't have that time anymore. I still love playing video games, but now obviously I moved over to my PlayStation, a bit more casual, and I can pick up and play when I want. But yet again, even still, I'm finding myself more busy. So I don't play my PlayStations nowhere near as much as I used to. So at the moment now, I get to move. I'm been moved down. Now I'm playing on my iPad more.
Yeah.
So much more easier just to play on my iPad and when you're on the move and stuff like that. And I play like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, or stuff like that on my iPad. So I play that on a daily basis. I'm my own clan. We're pretty good and stuff like that. I pride myself on that. So yeah, I get my competitive thing in that. But obviously, when I'm in a fight camp over here in America, I do get to play video games a bit more. And like I say, for me now, video games I like to play are more story sort of games, single player games, because I don't have pick up a game like Call of Duty or something like that. I get too competitive, and I need to be playing all the time to try and get the right guns, unlock these guns, get to that prestige, and I don't have that time. Where if I play the solo player game, I like playing like Dragon's Age. One of the best solo player games I played, story wise, it was The Last of Us. I thought that was an amazing game. Yeah. So that type of game I like. At the moment, I'm playing Fallout 4. And I'm one of those people, like you say, I've been playing that for a long time because I do absolutely every little side quest here. So I've been playing that for a long time.
All right, now I'm a big movie fan. Now I know you're supposed to see Star Trek. Now, first, did you see Star Trek? And how was it? And also, what is Brad Pickett's top 3 favorite movies?
Well, my top 3 favorite movies, it's got to be. It's a genre, so I love like Lord of the Rings. I'm really into that type of movie. I actually quite like the Warcraft movie. I thought that was really good as well. But but for me, like that sort of lore, like I was massive. Oh, and then also like that's why I love Game of Thrones. I'm a massive Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I think that's just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I say like I actually do now. Because the quality of them are amazing now. I do prefer TV series to just straight up movies, because sometimes with a movie you don't really get enough time to paint pictures of certain characters and stuff like that, where in a series, and when a series is done well, you build characters over a long period of time, and it's so much better. So like you can never have a Game of Thrones movie, it's just not going to be big enough, So yeah.
So what shows do you watch then? Other than Game of Thrones? What's some of your other favorite shows?
Well, obviously, I'm like I say, I'm one of those people. I just watch it. I watch it all. So obviously, I finished Breaking Bad. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
trying to think. I mean, I so many. I didn't mind. I thought Rome was pretty good. I watched that.
Yeah, what happened to Rome? I watched that too for the first 2 years, and it got canceled. It was terrible.
Yeah, so I liked Rome because I'll probably like Rome more because I don't love that era. You know, that's why I love the Gladiator, the movie, obviously, and stuff like that. You know, so like I really love that sort of thing. What else? Walking Dead was okay for the first couple of seasons, and then he just got a bit bad acting for me.
What about anything Netflix? Any of the Marvel shows or Netflix shows?
No, I haven't. I started watching Pinky Blinders, which looks pretty good. I'm trying to think what else I've been watching. I watch a few documentaries, obviously. Some documentaries are pretty good. But I'm more into that. I sit down in the evening and watch a bit with my wife and stuff like that.
Now, I mean, we talked about video games. Now, this is a question very few people can be asked, but especially since you were a gamer, is it weird or is it freaking awesome that you are in a video game and can look at yourself in a video game?
It's wicked because it will save me hours and hours of creating my own character. So it is good, but yeah, again, I don't get a lot of time, and I haven't really played the UFC game too much. Which sucks, because if I ever play against someone, I'm going to want to beat them, but but I don't get time to play those type of games.
Now, one question I wanted to ask is, I'm sure part of why you are much more busier now is because you have a kid. Kids take a lot of time and they demand time. But when your son gets older, I mean, would you be open to him being a fighter down the line, or would you really not want him to get into that kind of work?
I would like my son to do whatever he chooses to do. Wherever I'm not going to be a pushy parent. Well, maybe a little bit in some ways. I do believe I would like him to be sporty in some way, and I don't mind which angle he goes to. So obviously, I really like to start him off with doing something like a gymnastics that sort of thing when he's younger, because just make yourself more athletic, be able to jump. Roll, be good with your body weight, and then when you become quite athletic, you can move that to any sport you choose. And like I say, he could play football, basketball. Well, maybe not basketball with my height, but whatever,
I know the pain. I'm short.
Whatever he chooses to do, I really don't mind. I just like him to be sporty because I think when you're sporty, it does help you. Interact with other people. Team sports are good, and if he chooses to fight, he can, 100%, obviously. That may change over time. I don't know my thought on that at the moment. I definitely teach him how to, I think it's fun just to teach him how to box and wrestle and takedowns. I teach him everything that I know. But if he chooses to do that, great. If he doesn't, he wants to become a scientist, great. If he wants to be a doctor, do that. Whatever he chooses to do. My main thing as a parent, I just want my son to be a kind person, if that makes sense.
Totally.
I just want him to be kind-hearted, and that's it. If he's bright, great. If he's not, I'd rather my son be a kind kid than really bright and be an arsehole.
All right, now the final question is I'm going to give you a bunch of names or a bunch of things, companies. I just want you to give me a one-word answer that comes to your mind when I throw out these names. Okay. The first one, Enrique Briones.
Object.
Demetrius Johnson.
Fast.
Reebok.
Fight gear.
Thomas Almeida.
Tough.
Francisco Rivera.
Tough.
Paulie Gloves.
Legend.
Bellator.
Second best.
Shots fired. The guy you beat in your first fight in 17 seconds, Stuart Grant.
Nice kid.
And last, Mike Brown.
Best friend.
Also, if you could you thank Mike Brown for me? Because as a fan, he was the first guy to beat Uriah Faber, taking the title, and then beat him again, and I just disliked Uriah and his chin. So if you could just give him a thank you from me, I'd appreciate that.
No worries. We're on the phone at the moment, but I'll definitely pass it on.
All right, thank you so much. That's it. Thank you so much, Mr. Brad Pickett, for taking the time. It went longer than I expected, but I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, have a good night, Brad.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, Jason. Enjoy your night.
And that was my interview with UFC fighter Brad Pickett. Remember to check out Brad's fight with Enrique Briones on September 3rd at UFC Fight Night. You can also find our show on Google Play and on iTunes, and watch our YouTube channel, and find us at Cheap Seats and the Stickman podcast. Hope you enjoyed. See you later.